Hi, my name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and I'm Vice President of the Theosophical Order of Service. And I've been interviewing some of our Theosophists so that we can find out what their lives are about and how they came to Theosophy. Today, I want to welcome Justin Tanksley. Welcome, Justin.
Hello. Hi, Ann.
Yay. So glad to finally get to talk to you about your life. And let's start at the very beginning. Where were you born?
So I was born in Hinsdale, Illinois,
Okay. And where do you live now?
and now I'm currently living at the Theosophical headquarters here in Wheaton, Illinois.
Okay,
So not too far from where I was born.
right. Well, could you tell us a little bit about, so you live at the headquarters. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Like, where do you live at the headquarters, and are there other people there? Just give us kind of a little background about that.
Yeah, so historically, what I've been told is that people who work at the Theosophical Society and volunteer at the Theosophical Society here in Wheaton have historically lived, some of them have lived on the property. So we have a few cottages, a couple houses. One of them is for the president, the current president of the society. And then there are a few different apartments above the bookshop in what's called the Mills building. So I have a small studio apartment above the bookshop where I also work. So it makes it
Okay.
easy.
So you work in the bookshop. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I work in the publishing house in the morning and
And
then
give
the
us
bookshop.
and give us the names of these places as well.
Yeah, so there's the Theosophical Publishing House, which publishes Quest books, which is a series of books that have been coming out for many decades. And then I also work in the Quest Bookshop. So I just help out in both of those departments. And recently I just started helping with volunteer coordinating. So I do those as a job here at the Theosophical Society, but I also do a lot of other extracurricular activities as well.
Well, now as we're talking about some of the extracurricular activities and we are talking about service, let's go on and talk about YATA. What does that stand for and what's that about?
So YATA is stands for Young Adult Theosophists in America, and in the past there's been what's called the YTs or the Young Theosophists. And when I got here to the Theosophical Society, um, there wasn't a group for young people and specifically for young people. And so I thought it was a good idea. And it wasn't just me. It was me and a few other young people who met in Crotona, the Institute of Theosophy in Ojai, California. And Pablo and Michelle Sender had the idea that it would be nice if we all started the Young Theosophists again. So instead of using the term Young Theosophists, we wanted to kind of cater the title to what we are essentially, which is Young Adult Theosophists. So that's how YATA was formed. And it's a group that meets in person here in Wheaton once a month, and we also meet online once a month for the anyone in America that's interested in theosophy. So we have a Zoom meeting, and we also have an in-person meeting.
And so when you say young adults, about what ages does that cover?
Right now, the group is 18 to 40, so it's quite the spectrum of age.
That is quite a spread. So have you gotten other people from other states that are attending the Zoom meetings?
Yeah, we have people from Washington, Texas, um, Michigan, Washington, D.C., Illinois, and perhaps a few other places.
Okay, so that's where you are today, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's go back and see where it all began. Were you raised in a religion?
Yes, I was baptized Catholic and raised non-denominational Christian. And I'd say I still consider myself Christian today, but I don't know that most Christians would consider me Christian. So I kind of like to look at it from a more of an esoteric perspective. Um, but yeah, I was raised Christian and had some of my earliest spiritual experiences and deepening of levels of consciousness within that particular expression of God.
So that tradition helped you with your spiritual journey. And I'm wondering, has your background that you had up until you became a Theosophist, did that help you? You know, your Catholic background, your Christian background, did Theosophy supplement that? Did it challenge that, or did it change that? How did that come about?
So I'd say perhaps some point in high school and into college. At those times, I would have considered myself agnostic, searching really, and it was a long series of I guess you can say research and life experience that slowly put me on the path of um, spiritual seeking. And as a result of that seeking, I discovered the Theosophical Society back in 2017, October of 2017. And so I think a mixture of the Christian life, college, I took a lot of social science classes, a lot of religion, psychology, philosophy. So that opened my mind up to a lot of different views and perspectives. And so that all set me up um, in such a way that I could come to the Theosophical Society and feel like this is the place that I want to be. So,
It sounds like you went through a lot of questioning, and I'm wondering, are you still going through a lot of questioning? Do you feel like you've settled now, maybe in some kind of study? What is going on with you now in your spiritual journey?
um, yeah, I'd say there was a lot of questioning, but I believe when we question life, God, the universe, whatever we want to call that, um, seems to offer some form of an answer to us. And that could be through other people, that could come through intuition, that could come through a book, many different mediums in which our questions can be answered. Um, but I wouldn't say that I've answered my questions. I think I just have more questions. Um, but they're all worth seeking and pondering, and I'd say they're answered to some extent. And Theosophy gives me a good framework in order to verbally, intellectually, emotionally express some of um, the questions that I have. So Theosophy has been a helpful language to interpret some of the abstract feelings and thoughts that come through me.
That's wonderful. I agree. You know, Theosophy is so wonderful because it doesn't say you have to believe this. It says question everything, question
Hmm.
all, and just see for yourself. And if you don't take away the same thing somebody else takes away, that's okay. That's
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
open-mindedness is about. That's wonderful. Well, do you have any particular teachers or authors that have influenced you that maybe are your favorites?
Um, I don't have any particular teachers. I would say growing up, my dad um, was probably, in terms of like another human, um, was my first teacher, and he instilled some very uh, fundamental aspects of my spiritual beliefs that I still hold today. Um, but no particular spiritual teacher, but I will say, and this comes and goes, but there are people in life that we cross paths with, and it could be for a moment, and they could be friends or family and people that we're with for a considerable amount of time. And each of these interactions becomes a moment of potential teaching. And so I think when we're sensitive enough and in tune, which isn't to say it's all the time, but everything becomes a teacher. And I don't mean that because someone else said it. I mean it from experience. Each moment, each interaction becomes an opportunity to learn. And I'm sure from the other side of that, we're also potentially teachers as well. So I think life, for me, life and everyone I cross paths with is my guru, my teacher. So I try to remember that as much as I can.
Life shouts through every medium possible.
Hmm.
We just have to be able to listen and hear. You were mentioning intuition, and Theosophy teaches a lot about intuition. So that is about listening to that voice within, or even just the silence and that inner knowing. So,
Hmm.
such a young age, would you mind me asking how old you are?
I just turned 38 in October.
38. Okay. So are you going to get kicked out of YATA in 2 years?
Yeah, I'll be kicking myself out.
My goodness. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I know that you are also on the board of the Theosophical Order of Service. You're one of our at-large members. And I'm wondering if you could tell me, what does service mean to you? How would you define service?
It's always a good question. And hmm, I'd say service service to me is essentially completing a circle. So what's the circle? Um, from birth and throughout life, we are supported by others, and others, not just humanity, but the earth supports us, the food that we receive, um, our parents support us, the society supports us. And so growing up, I received, and I'm grateful for receiving so much support in me just being here on earth. And so as I'm getting older and learning about theosophy and being a part of the board of the Theosophical Order of Service, this question comes up, and I really, in contemplation, I realized that there's a whole circle of support around us our entire life. And all of the energies and all of the beings that support the universe, support the earth, and all the people who support our country, our society, have offered not only me, but all of us everything that we've ever had. And so, in order to complete that circle, I think service is an opportunity to give back in whatever small or large way we can to this um, circle of support that has been around us and continues to be around us as we move through this human life. So it's really just giving back to the world and to the universe and to spirit what's been given to us. So, and it's an evolution. I think service is something um, that we are evolving through. So, at first, it might be as simple as helping to pack food or hold a door open for someone. And I think as we grow spiritually, the way we serve might look a little bit different. So it's always changing, but I think it's ultimately giving back to our surroundings.
That's beautiful. I love that. It's like, rather than just serving, it's saying, we stand on the shoulders of those who have served us. And maybe service is what we need for a healthy society. Is one of the cornerstones of a healthy society, is that we help each other out and that we give back. Thank you so much for that definition. I know that I've seen that you have had some projects going there in the Chicago area at Wheaton. Could you just tell us a couple of things or more that you have done, maybe with YATA, or I don't know whether that's with your lodge there?
Yeah. Um, so the TOS group here, and that's made up of people from the Wheaton Olcott Lodge, and the young adult group that I spoke about, YATA. And so we've done a few different service projects. We've done a lot with Humanitarian Service Project, which was started by two Theosophists. You actually did a wonderful interview with Floyd, who is one of the two people who started that organization. And we've done through the Humanitarian Service Project, we've worked with the United States Postal Service. We put together a group that went to Feed My Starving Children, which is a Christian nonprofit organization. Um, and we're in the midst actually right now of getting a food drive and a clothing drive for the holidays. So that's going to be happening in the Quest Bookshop and hopefully in the main building. So we're getting that started. And yeah, so really a couple times a year we try to get a few service projects out there, and myself and Carrie, who's also the treasurer of the Theosophical Order of Service, she's here in Wheaton, so we're brainstorming some ideas that we can get going. So
Yay, that's what we like to hear.
yeah.
I love that. Are there any particular aspects of the theosophical philosophy that just fit snugly into your life that you said, oh gosh, yes, this is perfect for me? Are there anything that really has brought you to yourself, brought you home?
Hmm. I, the easy answer is all of it, and I mean that honestly. But to pick something out of there, um, the second object of the Theosophical Society is has something to do with comparative religion, philosophy, science, arts, essentially, really all the different ways we can come to truth. And I studied religion and philosophy in college, and so that aspect of theosophy is really um, kind of made me feel whole and let me know that I'm in the right place. Um, and it's not just simply, studying all of these various traditions in and of themselves, but really trying to understand how they fit together and how there's this underlying thread that perhaps runs through all of these different ways of expressing truth and wisdom. And so, yeah, I think the comparative studies is really one aspect that I appreciate the most.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And you are a member of the Olcott Lodge.
Hmm.
And how long have you been in that lodge?
So it's interesting. It must have been 2018. Someone at the front desk here told me that there was a young adult or a young theosophist group that meets in the library. And they said it meets on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And so I'm like, oh, there's a young group. And so I went there, and it was the Wheaton Olcott Lodge. And I walked in, and there was one chair left, and they just looked at me and they said, are you a member? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm looking for the young theosophist. And they're like, no. But they pointed to the open chair and they said, have a seat. You're here anyway. So I sat down and they were studying the secret doctrine. And I really didn't have any idea of what was being talked about. And but I sat down that day and I never left. And so it was interesting. Before YATA started, I found the lodge while looking for a young group that was meeting.
Oh, I know everybody doesn't have a lodge that they can go to, and so that's a special privilege. Can you tell me your experience in the lodge, whether that's been helpful to you? Have you developed friendships? Just a little bit about your relationship with the lodge.
Yeah, friendships and, I'd rather say family. So yeah, the lodge has been tremendously helpful for me. Um, I think naturally I have more of an emotional, devotional approach to spirituality, and the lodge was my first opportunity here at the Theosophical Society to really exercise the intellect, intelligence, the mind, um, some of the more thought-oriented processes that can also be developed. And so through study, and I think if we come with an earnest approach to whatever's being studied, there is the potential for um, the opening or the unfolding of what's in Theosophy called the higher mind. And so I do believe the lodge, along with other study groups that I'm a part of here at the Theosophical Society, have been instrumental in helping me exercise a part of myself that I typically wasn't using. Um, and like I said, I did study philosophy and religion, um, but when it comes to my spiritual life, I never really tried to expand in the direction of the mind. It was more of a heart-centered approach. So the lodge is a place that has helped me balance myself in that way. And that's not to say there isn't uh, a heart aspect or an intuitive aspect to what's happening in the lodge. But for me, that's how it's helped me.
Thank you. Yes, I often hear a lot of people say there's nowhere else where I can talk about this stuff. People
Hmm.
that, people are busy, life is busy, people have other belief systems, and it is a safe place to talk about those thoughts and feelings that are close to our heart and beliefs. So,
Hmm.
so glad you found Theosophy and we found you.
Hmm.
HPB says that Theosophy is altruism. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Uh, I agree. And that's why if someone says, calls me a theosophist or asks me, are you a theosophist? Um, I will say yes, I'm a card carrying member. I'm a student of theosophy, but the the reality of a theosophist, I think, is someone who is altruistic. And so I'm learning and growing in that direction. I'm trying. And so, um, but yeah, I think that's what we all are doing. And so altruism to me in regards to theosophy is an ideal that we can all strive for, and very few of us are probably, you know, at the level of truly, um, embodying 100% an altruistic life. But it's definitely something to try for.
Well, I'm going to give you a deeper question, and that is, what kind of milieu or basis do we have? What does altruism grow out of? I mean, what do we have to have in our lives in order to be altruistic?
Um, so many ways to talk about that. I believe it's really a matter of unfolding our true selves, growing into what it is that we really are. It's a letting go of the personal self and a moving closer to an awareness of our quote unquote higher self. I believe, and there's a Sanskrit term called buddhi, and so as we move into this higher level of consciousness, we start to realize our interconnectivity with all people, all beings, all life. And from that center of truth, that center of being, I believe we can start to become more altruistic as we become our more authentic selves. So, yeah, that's probably how I'd answer that.
I'm not sure if I asked you this before. Are there any particular books that you like, theosophical books that you've enjoyed?
Um, yeah, I've read so many. Currently, I'm really enjoying Jeffrey Hodson's literature, I.K. Timney. Um, Rohit Mehta. But my favorite book, I would say, and I'm sure there's plenty of us who would say this book or Light on the Path, but Voice of the Silence is a book that really touched me at the time that I first read it, and spoke to my heart and spoke to my soul. And if I read it today, I don't know what it means. But there was a time when I read it that it really spoke to me. So that's one of my favorite books, and it's something that I want to study more moving forward.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm wondering now, I really appreciate you talking to me. Have I covered everything about Theosophy that you know and do? Have I left anything out that you might like to speak of, or do you have any closing thoughts or words?
Um, I'll just say Theosophy is ever changing. When I came here, I had a particular idea about what the society was, what Theosophy could offer me, and each year, arguably each month, that changes for me. And I think each of us who finds the Theosophical Society is entering from where we're at, and I just want to say it's going to change, and so um, yeah, the Theosophical teachings have been wonderful, and I'm constantly getting more and more out of the same teaching. So yeah, just exercise patience and be willing to move with the changes within ourselves, and the teachings are alive, and so the best we can do is try to understand them from where we're at that moment.
And you said the teachings are alive. Is that what you said? Alive?
Hmm.
That's great. I love that. The teachings are alive, and so they are. And so when there's something that is alive, it is dynamic. That means it's
Yes.
moving and changing. And I think you were pointing to the fact that we have to accept that. We need to be flexible. We need to be tolerant. We need to be open-minded in order to be able to shift and grow.
Hmm. I
So
like that.
thank you
Yeah.
so much. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. Again,
Thank
this
you,
is
and thank
Justin
you.
Tanksley. Have a good day.
Bye.